Hello and welcome to the first episode of the ISO Ball podcast with your host, Derek Terrio, your place to learn about the NBA on and off the court. And just before I start, I just want to say I'm so humbled. Some of you people listening might know me, others may not. And so before I even continue, I just want to say that this is kind of my first crack at creating content of any kind. And so I think just the essence of this podcast is learning about the NBA and learning the ins and outs of the CBA and especially the things like pin downs on the courts and the X's and O's. And so that's what we're here to do, is just kind of do everything from a learning perspective. I'm going to learn how to create the best piece of content for me, my audience, and in return, I would hope that you listen and just kind of learn what I know about the NBA in turn as well. So there's a lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of people to thank. People like Gary Vee, who has really just kind of empowered me to take control over my own life and just go for whatever I'm looking to do. And I just love basketball. Like, I mean, if you know me, you know I'm a hoops junkie. Like, I was a skateboarder. I did a lot of that sort of stuff for a long time, and I've transferred that passion over to basketball, and it's been amazing just watching, learning about the game. And so I really feel passionate about trying to bring that knowledge onto other people and just kind of pass on what I know about the game onto others. I think that's kind of this next step for me, is just taking my passion for the game and just kind of putting it out on a global platform and really not caring what anyone thinks. And I think that's something that's empowering and very prominent in the message of somebody like Gary Vee. So he's someone I really need to thank, as well as some of the better guys in the industry. You know, your Nate Duncans and Daniel LaRue, and obviously even the guys at SI, Ben Golliver and Andrew Sharp. Even though I still don't understand how they rated Chris Middleton above DeMar DeRozan, but we'll keep that aside for now. Others like Zach Lowe, you appreciate the work of guys like Wojnarowski and Shams. And so when you really come to understand basketball from a lot of angles and really approach it from more than just the on the court portion of the game, I think it becomes really interesting. And so I think that's what a lot of fans miss out on. And so that's what I'm here to do. Just be able to kind of learn about the NBA and pass that knowledge on to you as I'm learning as well. So this obviously is going to be a weekly pod. There is going to be some guests. Mind you, I named the podcast Isoball and thinking that I was going to be the only one doing any sort of content on this pod, but I got to believe that there's going to be some guests. I know I have a few friends, especially a couple who watch the NBA quite a bit, that would have some opinions to kind of pass on to the public as well. So that's definitely something I'm looking to incorporate into this pod. I just want to touch on some things you should know about me. I'm recording this from Canada, so just about an hour north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So yes, naturally, I am a Raptors fan, and we'll get into some of my favorite stuff in a second. Graduated from Ryerson University. You know, I'm just another guy. Got out of university. You know, was looking for something to do in terms of a job, and now here I am, just kind of creating my own content, just shooting my shot, as we like to say around the office, and hoping for the best. And I think that this podcast is going to do me a wonders in terms of me just getting back into a creative flow, and I think I kind of got out of that for a bit. So hopefully that comes back as this pod goes on, and we'll talk more about that as well. So I want to touch on obviously I mentioned my favorite team was the Raptors. I've been a Raptor fan my whole life. Ever since I can remember 2001, Vince Carter missing that shot in Game 6 against Philly in the conference semis. That hurt. And then I took a break a little bit from basketball, not going to lie. I picked it back up around the era when Bosch came in. I was doing some good things for the Raptors for those 7 years, and I was kind of on and off in that area too. But I really picked it up again just before the Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan partnership is when I really started watching ball again. And so from there, I've just been kind of picking up what I know from the game, being a sponge in terms of content, in terms of knowledge, and again, just getting back to passing it on to others. And like I said, hopefully this Raptors fandom won't get in the way of any objective opinions, and I'm sure it won't. But I think it's important to get the transparency out there for my sake. As for my favorite player, again, if you know me and you know anything about basketball, you'll know that I ride and die with my guy CP3, Chris Paul, the point god. he's just an amazing player. I can do an entire podcast just on his skills and his intangibles alone, but we'll save that for another day. But just to touch on him quickly, I think what he's doing this year in Houston has been absolutely excellent. Just him leading the group defensively, and I think he poses a problems going against second units as well, just against some of the weaker point guards in the league, and he really tends to dominate those matchups, and I think that's posing a problem and why Houston's winning a lot of games, and that's kind of foreshadowing to, I guess, some of my favorite parts of the season, in that it being Houston, and to some degree OKC as well, are actually kind of like, we're thinking about them against the Warriors here. Like, we're not really totally bought in my opinion, that the Warriors, yeah, so they're the favorites, don't get me wrong. It's not that they're not the favorites, it's that it doesn't feel like as much of a lock as it did in years past. And maybe that's just me watching, I'm not exactly sure, but and I think it's just a little bit of a discredit to the Warriors because they get so comfortable, if you will. They've been to the finals. They know where their pedigree stands. They know where they stand in the league. And so I think sometimes they get bored with the regular season. And I can't really fault them for that. You know, it's a little bit tedious playing 82 games and trying to be professional and trying to be motivated for all of those games is definitely not easy. And so I do have sympathy there. But I think the bigger stock as to why I think this gap between Golden State and Houston, and to some degree OKC, is a little bit closer than the others think, is I think more of a credit to those two teams. And I say that primarily with Houston as my main contender to Golden State, obviously, and that just being because I think that Golden State going against Houston, they're going up essentially point a mirror at yourself and look at Houston, because that is what they are. 3-point shooters, versatile defenders, guys that can get out, guys that can switch, blow up your actions. And I think that is so valuable, and I can just picture, like right now, having PJ Tucker and Trevor Ariza in the lineup at the 3-4, and you try to run a Durant KD pin down, and Tucker and Ariza or even Ba Mute are just switching that and just being able to force you into ISO shots that are the Warriors don't want to take. And so I think that versatility out there defensively as well as offensively, just going 5-0 in the high pick and roll, is something that it's going to be hard to defend for any team. I don't care who you are out there. It's just it's incredibly hard when you have a great player like Capella and Harden playing high pick and roll, and as great of a player Harden is, getting downhill, making decisions with the basketball, whether it be finding the three off the tagger or being able to hit the roll man in Capella. There's just so many options that are just so difficult to defend, and I think the Warriors have a version of that too, if we're being frank. The Curry Durant high pick and roll with Clay lifting on the weak side, like, that is deadly. And they don't show that too much in the regular season, but you really see it against the high pedigree situations in the playoffs, and they really have that in their back pocket at all times. And that's also something I guess some people fail to consider, is how deep Golden State is. Not only that, but how long they've been doing this for. This is not something that they're just starting to do. Like, this is something that they understand consistently. They understand the moment, and they really understand how to take advantage of these situations. And I think that may be where they have the advantage over Houston, because let's be clear, I still think Golden State is the favorite, but the reason I think Houston has such a close margin, if you will, is because of just their match to beat Golden State. They can shoot you out of the gym. Every player on that squad can shoot, with the exception of Clint Capella. And something too that I saw in the regular season is that I was really concerned about Houston's rotations. I thought that D'Antoni was playing a lot of minutes on guys like Eric Gordon and Ariza and Ryan Anderson, because there was a stretch there where there was a few guys out, being Chris Paul and as well as Ba Mute. And so I was questioning at times. I said, how deep is Houston if they only can go 7 or 8 deep during the regular season? I mean, they can't go 10, 11 deep. Or maybe they can, and D'Antoni chooses not to, which is understandable as well. But there was real questions there. And then as the season progresses, you see now they're adding Gerald Green, who has just been an absolute spark plug off the bench shooting the basketball. And now you have guys like Joe Johnson, who has just been recently signed off the buyout market, and a guy like Brandon Wright, who still has yet to play. And so these are the types of guys that facilitate the same type of system that D'Antoni is trying to implement. And that is just, hey, we're going to play basically the 2005 Phoenix space and pace offense on steroids is what the Houston Rockets are, and it's incredible. It's incredible what they're doing, and I think you would be foolish to rule them out so easily against Golden State that quickly. So that was kind of one thing that was that interested in this season, and I'm looking forward as I record this just after the All-Star break on Wednesday. Tomorrow night is game night again. Through the second last part of the regular season, I'm interested to see how things finish as well, because as we know, Houston's 2 games up in the standings as well. So if you're the Warriors now, you have a conundrum. Are we going to see if we can try and win out and get that first seed? Is that something that's realistic? Because I think that the dynamics change a little bit, that if you're Golden State and Houston and you're in game 7, that the game is in Houston and it's not in Golden State. I think that also is has some merit in terms of how you're going to judge this series. So I think that we should take into account as well. And just flipping over to the other side, let's go to the Eastern Conference here. Also been quite interesting. I think at the beginning of the season, people were really on the least bandwagon, meaning the less of the conference, as in LEAST, the least. So. And we've seen that to some extent with some teams, bad teams in terms of Atlanta and Orlando, but a lot of teams I think have been pleasantly surprising, frankly. And we can go down the line. I think the Knicks have been okay, especially with no Porzingis. Obviously, the season's kind of lost now, but when they were playing with Porzingis, not bad, especially with a new guy like that being the number one option, and you having to have minimal pieces around him. I think that he did a great job, and obviously prayers up. We hate to see those ACL tears, especially for guys at his size, and we know how difficult that is to come back from as well. So prayers up for Porzingis. Hopefully he can get better. Obviously, the Magic are just absolutely no good. Neither are the Atlanta Hawks. So in those two teams at least, I think those 2 teams have been awful. But some of the surprising teams, again, we talk about the Knicks. I like Indiana Pacers. I think Oladipo obviously has been a revelation, but a guy like Sabonis as well has been playing really well. Miles Turner's kind of getting back in the groove, and we see even a guy like Lance Stevenson can help you on that second unit as a spark plug. I really like what's going on there in Indiana as well. I think we expected more out of Philly to an extent, just because I think Markelle Fultz being in there, I think at the level that we thought he was going to be, the number 1 pick caliber, I think would have really helped the Sixers in their playoff push. Obviously, they don't have him anymore, and the real story is Simmons and Embiid. Those 2 have been absolutely excellent. They have 2 gems right there in those guys, and I'm looking forward to see how that tandem proceeds as the season goes on. But let's get to the top of the conference here, and I mainly just want to focus. Actually, we'll touch on the Wizards as well. I really want to just kind of give a shout out to Bradley Beal. I love what he's doing this year, man. It's been what a revelation this guy has had as a player who's always been injured, really can't find his rhythm because he's been recovering off seasons, really has to spend time recovering, really can't find his rhythm because he's been injured so much. Now really gets a full season under his belt, and almost 2 by the end of this one. And so you really see what he's capable of as a player. And he's an unbelievable shooter off the dribble as well. I think is very underrated. I mean, his step back game is lethal. There's no shot on the floor that he can't hit. And as we see when John Wall has gone out as well, he's been a bit of a facilitator. We can see that he can actually pass the ball as well. He can actually get his teammates involved off shots and off the pick and roll, and that's amazing. And obviously, I have to credit some of that to Drew Hanlon, who is his trainer, as well as some of the other guys like Andrew Wiggins and Jason Tatum, Kelly Oubre Jr., Jordan Clarkson, all these guys that are, even Embiid, all these guys that are flourishing, you can see are under Drew Hanlon. And mind you, those are some good talents right there, but I think that we do have to give him some credit, because it seems that all the players that come through his system and really take the time to work out hard with him really see the results. And Zach LaVine is another one I think that is a good example of too. So I just want to give a quick shout out to him, because I've never seen a trainer be able to transform that many players like that on that level, and I think that's worth noting. But getting back to the top of the East here, the Raptors, 2 games up on the Celtics. We're going to go top down here. 2 games up on the Celtics, and so you're questioning you're questioning yourself. Oh, and by the way, I should correct myself. I believe the Rockets are a half game up on the Warriors. I misspoke there. But the Raptors are 2 games up on the Celtics now at this point. And so this is the question you need to get into as well, is the Raptors are committed, and I think Dwayne Casey has come out and said this, they're going for the number 1 seed. They want to win the East. Okay, there's no saving the players. They want home court throughout the playoffs, and I think that that's smart. Obviously, you should want to go and do that. And I think that that's going to make a difference. Again, when you get into a series against Boston or the Cavs or even Washington for that matter, to know that the Game 7 is going to be on your court and you have home court throughout, I think is very, very important. So I think that that's something important for Toronto to get. And I also should touch and just kind of note that I think that this is the Raptors' best year to get to the finals. Frankly, in their 21-year history, I can't think of a year that is better than this one, because the Cavs were their main roadblock as of recently, and so because they have some say they improved their roster, especially from the Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade days, but they still haven't filled that Kyrie Irving role. He's in Boston now, doing excellent in Boston, I might add. And I still think that could be an issue, putting it all on LeBron. Not that he can't do it, don't get me wrong. LeBron's an incredible player, best player in the world. And I think he can do it. But I think it's harder if you put the ball in LeBron James' hands as opposed to giving him that outlet in Kyrie Irving. And they haven't filled that void. So that's why I'm kind of interested to see what goes on this year. But I think, touching on the Raptors as well, getting back to them, I think just their bench has been amazing. I think that's been underrated. Can't believe none of them were in the Rising Stars Challenge, whether it's Siakam, who has just been incredible. This was a guy that used to just run the floor and rim run and just hope for the best. Now he's improving his shot a little bit, although I think he's only shooting 19% on 2 attempts a game, so don't get me wrong. But he is a guy that didn't even have a shot, didn't even think to have a shot, and now he's really improving it. He's putting the ball on the floor, making plays for teammates. His switchability defensively, it's incredible. OG Anunoby, a guy that can knock down open shots and again be versatile on you. You can throw that guy on LeBron James and he's not going to stop him, but he has a chance to slow him down. He has a chance to be a guy that you can throw in a rotation of looks at him, whether it be an Ibaka. Now you throw Anunoby at him. Maybe you throw some other wing that they can pick up on a buyout market. Just something, even Norman Powell. You can even throw Siakam at times. You know what I mean? You can give him different looks, and I think that's kind of important when you're coming down, when it gets down to it. And then the starters have been amazing. DeRozan this year, incredible, shooting the 3 ball along with Jonas Valanciunas, who has also been amazing. DeRozan also taking on the playmaking role. We've seen multiple 8 assist games from him. I think that he has just been incredible, just never satisfied with his game, never content with how he's playing on the court, always looking to add something every year, understanding that he can always get better. I think that's a valuable skill in the NBA, is someone with that work ethic and that drive, especially with a guy that's already been paid. I mean, he came out the year after he got his 5-year, $145 million contract and dropped a career high 27 in the regular season. So this is a guy that's not motivated by money. He's motivated by the love of the game. And those guys sometimes, especially in this day and era of the big money contracts and stuff like that, those guys are just hard to come by. They're just really hard to come by, and I think that probably was the tipping point as to why the Raptors chose to re-sign him and make him the player they have going forward and possibly be the greatest Raptor of all time. And I think that was a great decision on their part. Moving to the Celtics have been excellent as well. They had that torrid stretch throughout the first part of the season. I can't remember the record they were on, but they were first in the NBA for a little bit there, highlighted by their defense, I think, which is still number 1 in the league, and that has just been excellent. Just their, again, switchability between guys like Jaylen Brown. Al Horford has been excellent on defense this year. It's been incredible. Even Kyrie, a guy really not touted for his defense, has really fit well in that system. Brad Stevens doesn't have to hide him on defense. He can really just kind of put him on whoever, and Kyrie is now in that system and in that culture where he will take the challenge on a night-to-night basis, and I think that's important. That makes him a more complete player, which has been great. Jason Tatum can't miss from three-point land. It's unbelievable. This guy cannot miss. Jaylen Brown is looking incredible, is filling into a role left from Gordon Hayward that he didn't prepare for at the beginning of the year, has just stepped up and been excellent. And so it's been amazing. And I think and now we have Greg Monroe, who also think is going to help that second unit. So I'm excited about what Boston can do. I think they're going to be a real challenge in the conference semis if it's against Cleveland or the Raptors. And that's going to be a great series. We're definitely looking forward to that. So just to wrap up with the East, we'll just talk quickly about the Cavs here. The Cavs, I know this sounds like they have the most to talk about, but let's face it, they revamped their roster, right? Like, there's not much to talk about. Rodney Hood is amazing. He's an underrated player, a guy similar to Bradley Beal. When he's healthy, when he's playing, the guy is incredible, and that's friggin' great. I love that. Jordan Clarkson, again, a Jamal Crawford type guy off the bench. He's going to get you buckets. He's going to be able to create some plays. He can hit open shots. He can create his own shot off the dribble. That's important, especially for a guy in the second unit when you need some scoring. Larry Nance Jr. is just a guy that just the box score does not do justice on. This guy, he's all over the place. He's defensively on the glass, picking up on communicating in the pick and roll, switching onto guards, being able to defend at a high level. It's unbelievable. And on offense, he provides gravity. And I think we saw that against OKC, I believe the game was, where at least a couple of buckets, the threat of Nance's roll to the rim sucked in the defense and left Jordan Clarkson open for 2 threes. And I think that happened on back-to-back plays, with the initial action being the pick and roll with George Hill and LeBron James. LeBron James and Larry Nance. So that in itself I can see being a problem for defenses. And there's just a lot of things to figure out. I really want to see how it meshes. I want to see how things go together, and then after that I'll start making my prediction. But I just want to see at least 5 to 10 games first, and we'll revisit that as well. So that was a nice quick coverage of just kind of the East and West, just at the top, going here into the All-Star break. I just want to touch on one more thing I think was important at the trade deadline. I know this was something I'm kind of late on, especially on this podcast, and I think that some of these 2016 contracts that we thought were going to be great because the cap went up have clearly backfired on a bunch of these teams, to the point where taking on bad money is a little bit difficult because you're going to have to give a first-round pick to teams who need to take on this bad money. And a lot of the time, it's the team that's taking on the bad money demands that first-round pick. And that's just something that is hard-pressed to find in terms of talent for these teams, that when you're in an era where Golden State rules, you're looking to rebuild, you need talent, you know what I mean? So unless you're adding a player that can help you right now, it's difficult for them to part with those picks. And so I'm just going to roll down some of the list of these contracts here that are bad. Luol Deng, 4 years, $72 million. Miles Plumlee, 4 years, $50 million. Evan Turner, 4 years, $70 million. And I like Evan Turner too, but just not at that money. Chandler Parsons, 4 years, $94 million. Are you kidding me? Bismack Biyombo, 4 years, 72. Again, he really didn't live up to his playoff Toronto hype that really earned him that money. Jan Mahimi, 4 years, 64. Again, guys didn't even see the floor that much. Mozgov, which they already moved at 4 years, 64. And just the worst one, which is still ongoing at the moment, is Joakim Noah, 4 years, $72 million with the Knicks. These contracts are just awful. And especially with the misprojection of the salary cap going up because of the new TV deal, really messed up these teams until they can get off these contracts. And so I think that that's something just kind of important to point out, and I just wanted to touch on super quick. And the last thing I kind of wanted to get into is I think I love this rookie class. I think this rookie class has been excellent. If you go top down, and I say top down, and the top two guys are a little bit questionable, or at least in the case of Markelle Fultz, I don't really have any questions about Lonzo Ball. Okay, well, I do. But in terms of what I think about, okay, let's start with Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz, let's not dosey around it. The shot looks bad. JJ Redick was adamant about saying, well, why are you guys filming this guy's shot? It's not right or whatever. Well, you know what, JJ? Unfortunately, it looks bad. It looks awful. Like, I'm sorry, it does not look good, and it looks more like a mental thing than a hurting my shoulder thing, if we're going to be frank about it. And so, if you're Markelle Fultz, you have two options. Like, either, well, actually, you have one option. Just sit out the year. Just fall in line with the rest of the Sixers. I mean, you guys are going to be competitive in the playoffs anyway, so you might as well just take a year, rest the shoulder, take an off season, work on that jump shot, come back next year with a new attitude, new confidence, new jump shot, and pretend like last year didn't even happen. And I think that is his best option right now. there's no reason to rush him back. I don't think anything of it. So I like to hope that this is going to be a reset for Markelle Fultz, just to have a full off season to be able to go and do what he wants, and hopefully that will fix him. But I'm concerned about Markelle Fultz. I'll be straight up about it. I'm not concerned about Lonzo Ball. I'm not. I think what he has you can't teach personally. I think his court vision is exceptional for a 19 or 20-year-old. I'm not sure how old he is now. He's great on the defensive glass. Sure, the shot is not that good. I agree, but you know what? It can be fixed. Like it's a jump shot. You know what I mean? It clearly goes in. There's clearly adjustments that you can make to it. Obviously, he starts from the left side of his body, ends up on the right eyebrow, and then releases. So naturally, the shot is slower. It is easier to be blocked, but he can get to the rim. And I mean, there's times where I've seen that he can get to the rim. And obviously his handle could improve as well. But the guy is 19, 20 years old. Like, he has so much time. And so I don't think I'm worried about him just based on that reason. I think he's going to be fine. He has the stuff that you can't teach. And I think that's important. You can teach the jump shot. You can't teach the court vision at the level that he has it. And you can't teach the defensive rebounding that he has as well. Either you're there or you're not. Just going down the list, Jason Tatum has been excellent. I touched on him in the Boston breakdown. He's just been incredible from three. I think his skills, again, another Drew Hanlen guy. I think his skills are just absolutely magnificent. You saw that in college there at Duke. His 3-point game was meh. It was okay. It wasn't crazy good. And because you take a summer and a pre-draft process with Drew Hanlen putting up 250 makes a day minimum, you better believe that shot is going to improve. And we've seen the results without any hesitation. Josh Jackson has been okay. I mean, I don't even want to say okay just because from an efficiency standpoint, he hasn't been very good at all. I'm pretty sure his true shooting percentage is under 45. And true shooting percentage, just in case you didn't know, is the combination of free throws, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage. Is a combination of all your shooting statistics into one to give you a better idea of a number that you can judge an entire shooting performance of, as opposed to just field goal percentage or 3-point percentage, etc. And so the league average is about 55, I'm pretty sure, just to give you kind of an idea. So just has not been very good. But getting back to some positive guys that I liked, I like Lauri Markkanen. I think he's been great. I think he's going to be an elite 3-point shooter, exactly what you're looking for in a modern-day big, a mobile guy that can shoot at a high level. I think he's going to be great, and if they can re-sign Zach LaVine as well, that's two nice young pieces. I know Zach LaVine getting there in age. I think he's about 22, 23 now, so he's getting up there a little bit, but just two good pieces that I think you can build around for the future in those two. So looking forward to see what the Bulls do with him as well as Zach LaVine. Dennis Smith Jr. was my favorite player coming out of this draft. Oh, and De'Aaron Fox as well. Sorry, I forgot to touch on De'Aaron Fox. A guy that I really like, to be honest. As I mentioned, Dennis Smith, my favorite. De'Aaron Fox, my second favorite. De'Aaron Fox has been relatively okay. Again, he's in Sacramento. Not a great environment to start off your career, in all honesty. The shooting has improved over time as we've gotten closer to the end of the year here, but I like what I see from him. I think the effort defensively is still there. The flash, the speed is still there as well, and I think that his game will evolve nicely as he grows a little more mature into his body, etc. So looking forward to see what I can get from De'Aaron Fox. Dennis Smith Jr. has been my favorite rookie of this class, I should say. Love what he's bringing to the table. Just from a point guard standpoint in a place like Dallas, they've really given him the reins to say, hey, like, this is going to be your team now. You're going to be the guy. Just go out there first year and show me what you got. And so we see the athleticism. We see the jump shot really starting to improve after you struggled a little bit to start the year. And I think some of the footwork has been cleaned up as well. And I think just tighten up his handle a little bit and just maybe a little bit craftier finishing around the rim. And we're going to see a multi-time All-Star in Dennis Smith Jr. I'm pretty confident. If I have to go the over-under, I'm going over 5. Over 5 All-Star games for Dennis Smith Jr. And the last guy we'll touch on before we kind of wrap up here is, who is it again? Oh, that Rookie of the Year candidate. Oh, yeah, Donovan Mitchell. The guy has been unbelievable. This Donovan Mitchell looks incredible. Like, this guy looks incredible. Some of the off the dribble moves this guy has already is just incredible. It's his athleticism. We saw what he could do in the dunk contest champion, and he's finishing at the rim. He's shooting threes. He's so confident with the basketball. It's really really incredible to see what a guy like that, especially on a team like Utah, where he kind of took the reins. I mean, he really wasn't asked to be that guy. He just was that good. He took the reins and ran with it. And I think that is just awesome. I can't wait to see what I see from him. He's, I'd say, my third favorite rookie, behind De'Aaron Fox and Dennis Smith Jr. So kudos to Donovan Mitchell. He's been incredible, and he right now is my pick for Rookie of the Year. Sorry, Ben Simmons. I know you're there, but it's Donovan Mitchell for me. Okay, and just wrapping up here, I gotta say, I appreciate the time. If you've made it to the end of this podcast, I do appreciate it. Like I said, this is my first piece of content, really, just kind of putting it out there, and so it really feels good to just kind of express some opinions and just put my opinion in the air for people to hear. And whether you support me or not, that's cool. Like I don't mind. It's okay. I expect some hate. I'm still learning about the game, as I mentioned. I don't know everything, and I'm not trying to act like I know everything. But that's the point of this podcast. Getting back to the premise is learning. We're here to learn. We're here to learn about the game, and I want to hear your comments too. Comment, whether it be in YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Music. Hopefully, we'll get there. SoundCloud. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to get in the chat and comment with you guys. Please try not to be a troll, but I'm still willing to entertain some conversations with you guys. And yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to feedback. There's going to be definitely more weekly episodes, so you can expect a lot from that as well. We're looking into platforms, as I kind of touched on with some of those that I mentioned on comments and stuff. And we're looking at segments as well. So things like maybe like stock up, stock down, game of the week, piece of information of the week in terms of your learning tips, stuff like that. So just stay tuned for more segments, more guests as well, and hopefully we can cultivate a nice podcast between myself and the viewers, or I should say the listeners. Look at that, already making mistakes on my first pod. Well, what are you gonna do, right? That's what we're here to do. So thank you if you made it to the end. I do appreciate this, and yeah, look forward to hearing from you soon in terms of your comments, and we will be back next week on